Hello, everybody. Welcome to our library workshop titled Shine Bright, Navigating Databases and Differentiating Sources. My name is Steven Salas. I'm the research instruction librarian. Your professor might have invited me to visit your class. Possibly you missed out, or your professor suggested you to attend one of our workshops that we offer throughout the semester. It's the same thing. You might have missed out on it too, but luckily we do have it recorded on YouTube, and you will have it available at any given time and watch the workshop at your own pace. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at trinitylibrary@trinitydc.edu. Let me share my screen so we can start going through the workshop together. Share screen. So let's talk about evaluating online sources. When you're writing papers and research, you're doing research, you're going to have to find a lot of sources. And nowadays you can get a lot of that stuff online. You don't physically have to come to the library anymore and check out the journals and scan them or anything. Luckily, the majority of everything's online based now, so it's a lot easier to access. But when you get a bunch of once you get a bunch of sources, you're going to have to try to figure out if it's valid, if it's credible, or if it's something you should be wary of and not use for your paper. Most of the information we encounter online is considered a popular source, but what makes a source popular and what are some examples? I'm going to click this video so we can quickly understand what are popular sources.
This tutorial will define popular sources and explain their role in the research process. When doing research on a topic, it is important to use reliable sources of information. Often we use scholarly articles, which present research and information directly from the source. However, we can also use reliable popular articles to find good information on a topic. Popular articles can be found in general interest publications, like newspapers and magazines. While they are not scholarly, popular articles from respected publications can provide excellent background information, as well as stories, opinion pieces, images, and more personal points of view on a topic. These can help bring life and interest to your research project. In addition, while scholarly articles often report the findings of a study or experiment for experts in a field, popular articles report those same findings in a way that is easier for the general public to understand. There are many places to find popular articles. Many publications such as the New York Times, Scientific American, Popular Science, or Fortune magazine have their own websites. The UW-Madison libraries also have access to several databases that include popular articles. Remember, popular articles are excellent sources of background information, as well as stories and opinions that can make your project more interesting. Popular articles often discuss the results of research in a way that is easier for the general public to understand. You can find popular articles through Google, on individual publications' websites, or by searching in a library database.
Hopefully that was very informative. Let me emphasize a couple things. Whenever you get your assignment details, make sure that the professor does clarify what type of sources you need to use for your paper. Sometimes they will be okay with popular sources incorporated into it. Like, for instance, they might say, for your paper, I want 3 popular sources and 3 scholarly sources. That's easy, right? You know exactly what to look out for. But if your professor states, I just want 5 scholarly articles used in your paper, well, double check with them to see if, hey, can I use a popular source that gives a background on my topic? And it would be great as supplementary source. It won't count towards those 5 scholarly sources that was assigned, but if it helps your paper, just ask to see if you can use it or not. Because popular sources are there for a reason. It gives us a good background on a topic, and it's really easy to follow, especially if it's a topic you're unfamiliar with and you need to understand what goes with that topic. Assessing information online, using information from the internet has its own sets of challenges. A lot of fake news since the 2020 election. A lot of stuff on social media, a lot of stuff on fake websites, and fake people are spreading news. And unfortunately, a lot of people, even to this day, aren't doing their own research or thinking for themselves. So fake news spread like wildfire. Bias is it's natural for the majority of us. We have our own biases, but we have to be very mindful when it comes to reading information that yes, this article was written by someone, I don't know, someone of privilege or someone who may or may not have a deep understanding of what's going on. In scholarly sources, there's a lot less bias. Not saying there isn't, but you tend to use a lot more science and facts to uh, prove something. Whereas in popular sources, there really isn't background checks. They just tell a story. General trustworthiness. A lot of people are very uneasy with the information out there. Some people believe just because it's coming from a specific network or a specific newspaper or magazine, they tend to not believe it or anything that's being said. Clickbait. I'm sure we've come across websites where there's very tempting ads that look like it's very interesting, that it'll take this one pill and it'll make you look 40 years younger. There's a lot of clickbaits that will try to distract you from the larger picture. Non-scholarly sources, that's the popular sources mentioned before, like newspapers, magazines. As I said, they tend to have a little bit more bias in them. Algorithms and AI. Whenever you use your browser, whenever you do searches on your phone, the results of what you get is catered to what you like and what you may be interested in. So it's going to be different than what I see. What I see is going to be different than what some other person sees. What are some issues you've had when using online sources? If you're a freshman, so this is probably your first time trying to utilize online sources, so you're not very familiar with it, but you'll come across a few issues. But anybody else who's watching this video, if you have an example, feel free to type in a comment, or I'll just pause for a second to think about what are some issues you've had when you're trying to search for information online. Was it anything that I mentioned before in terms of biases? I think one of the biggest ones that a lot of students come to the library is that they're just extremely overwhelmed with where to get information from. Google in itself is great because it's such a large infrastructure to get information, but you quickly get lost and you're not sure which article or which link or what you should use because you're just unfamiliar with it. But that's why you're librarians, us, we're here to help guide you through the digital jungle of information out there. Databases that we have are a great place to start as well. Google Scholar is a great place. I'm not super familiar with Google Scholar. I know how to use the basics, but people know how to navigate through Google Scholar. Just takes practice. Just watch videos, tutorials, and stuff. Fake news include, here are 7 types of mis and disinformation. Satire or parody. No intention to cause harm, but has potential to fool. Previous examples that was used was, if anybody here has read an article from The Onion, it's just very outlandish, funny articles that's not true at all. Or if you watch like corresponding fake, news comedians like John Oliver at night, they tend to do a lot of spoofs and funny content. Misleading content. Misleading use of information to frame an issue or individual. So this is like where you're thinking you're reading one thing that the highlight suggests, like what's being said in the title and stuff, but there's no real follow-up of that same information in the article itself. So they'll try to grab you saying, hey, can you believe this person did this, or that this causes this, but when you actually start reading the article, they're just going within a huge tangent. Imposter content, when genuine sources are impersonated. It's when a specific person or people or like an organization can be impersonated, and that could be really easy nowadays with a lot of hackers, and people spoof emails, people spoof websites. It's not difficult, but it's our job as readers as navigators through the online, like what did I say, the online jungle of information. You have to be very wary of what information is being put out there. Fabricated content, new content is 100% false, designed to deceive and do harm, which completely 100% information is just completely made up. There's no solid facts or background given on what's being stated. So stuff like, I want to say, Alex Jones, I don't know if he's still relevant in the news nowadays, but he can spew on about anything and everything. And yeah, they do a lot of, that person specifically does a lot of harm. What else do we have? False connection. When headlines, visuals, or captions don't support the content, a lot of times when I think when the museum in DC had a section where they showed how an image can tell a story, but if you crop it in a specific way, or if you put a filter on it on an image a specific way, it can tell a completely different story. The biggest one was, I believe, OJ Simpson's mugshot. Originally, it just looked like a regular mugshot, but like certain news stations, a magazine posted it, but with like a darker filter to make it look more menacing. False context. When genuine content is shared with false contextual information, where true info is available in the article, but it's kind of swayed and tries to take you to a tangent to tell another story. So be careful with that. Lastly, this is the most prominent one with AI nowadays, is when genuine information or imagery is manipulated to deceive. The biggest things I could point out is like deep fakes, where people would use AI to create an image of a person and have them doing something at an event or faking an event or almost anything. Anything is possible of how fast technology is when it comes to manipulating images and videos or even voices. There was one instance about a principal, someone cloned a principal's voice, and they were able to get him in trouble by stating certain horrible stuff towards a specific religious community. Credibility is key when looking at information on the internet, but what does this mean? So when you're looking for information online, what is it that you're looking for? Like, how do you know if the information in front of you is credible? Do you know what you're looking for when it comes to finding credible information? Well, if you're not sure, I have a list right here. Types of credible sources you can find online. Reputable news organizations. They tend to employ original fact reporting. They take note of editorial opinion sections. The majority, like newspapers, they have an editorial portion or opinion portion in their newspaper where it's not necessarily fact, it's just more so of the opinion of the editor or their thoughts of a story or news or a topic. So be careful with that. Look for news wires like the Associated Press for news without spin. Reputable magazines like long form journalism. Statistics, as someone who's used government websites a lot for my public health degree, I've constantly used government websites to get statistics and data. Lastly, research reports from colleges and university websites. Because the authors from research reports are people in the academic field, they've done a lot of studies to have like a background and expertise in the field. A lot of them may have PhDs. A lot of them aren't doing it for money necessarily. A lot of the authors, like the academic professors, faculty, adjuncts, they're doing it for the love of research and the love of passing on information to others. Website domains, if anybody here is not familiar with the variety of domains on .com, basically it's commercial websites. .org is nonprofit organizations. .edu, we should know because we're at Trinity. There's educational websites. .gov, government websites. .eu/.uk is official websites hosted in other countries. .biz, .net, .info is commercial technology infrastructure and is not widely used. So whenever you find an article and it has one of these in domains at the end, be very careful because more than likely .gov, .edu is a lot more reliable than if you were to find something from .biz or .net. What about bias? So bias is a predisposition that distorts your ability to fairly weigh the evidence and prevents you from reaching a fair or accurate judgment. Here's how to spot bias. Look for evidence of pattern of fairness over time. Compare a variety of news outlets, especially to search for bias by omission. And lastly, take note of the self-interest of those alleging bias. Media bias is a pattern of fairness or willful inaccuracy over time by a specific journalist or news outlet. So one of the previous examples that I used, I think it was for the APA or the database one, is if you're trying to figure out whether or not you should tax the rich more and if it'll be better for the economy, something like from the published by the Washington Post, they're going to be very against taxing the rich a higher tax percentage because the owner is a billionaire called Jeff Bezos who owns Amazon. It'll be very difficult to find someone who will step out of their comfort space at Washington Post and actually go against Jeff Bezos, because essentially if you do, you're going to cost them potential money, even if you may have some really credible information of why it's better to tax the rich a lot more. There's some sort of bias because the majority of them have some stakeholders that support the company. And of course, the companies will want to make their stakeholders happy. And if they have a specific allegiance to one party or another, or a certain belief or another, then you have to be careful with trying to pick them as a reliable source. Okay, so bias in media. This tweet comes from Nicole Hannah-Jones. New York Times Magazine staff writer and creator of the 1619 Project, which was something we've read here at Trinity. It was our Trinity Reads, I want to say last year. Her tweet highlights how media bias can affect our understanding of events such as the unrest and uprising experienced in many U.S. Cities during summer 2020 in response to police violence against unarmed African Americans. She's pointing out how by leaving out the context of violence and looting, such as the dire economic reality many face due to losing their livelihoods in a pandemic, the story, quote unquote, of violence in urban centers loses context and meaning, which becomes another racist trope. So if you haven't read it already, I'll say, she wrote, Is it strange to anyone else that virtually none of the reporting on rising violence in the US cities is making links to the economic catastrophe, job losses, evictions that black communities are enduring because of COVID? So a couple years ago when COVID happened, a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people's health became at risk. There were a lot of evictions happening because a lot of people lost their jobs. So of course there's a lot more chaos happening. But what was happening in terms of the issue with this, it wasn't COVID, which obviously was the case in 2020. One of the biggest rises is in DV, I think that's domestic violence, but yet they cite guns and gangs as the issue of why they're in economic catastrophe. So what about AI? What about algorithms? This is something you have to be very careful with because it's becoming a lot more prominent nowadays. Algorithms, AI information, and algorithms and artificial intelligence shape how we experience the internet. Search engines like Google, social media sites, and others use algorithms to present results to us and to recommend content. Sorry. These sources are for profit companies who use advertising as their business model. Free for us, but of course, the only way they make money is by offering a lot of ads, and hopefully it's going to be ads related to your interest. So this results in a lot of clicks, which equals money for them, and content with more engagement is prioritized in search results based on popularity. So even if even if the article was not that great, people can still buy views, and the views go from like, oh, this article will probably be listed out of the million results on 100. But if you keep getting more views and views, then Google will constantly put that specific article higher in the result. So hopefully, if it gets a lot, they'll probably put it number one as the first thing that shows up. Predictive software plays a role too and shows content based on what it thinks the user wants to see based on internet history, geography, and what others with similar habits do online. I don't know if anybody's seen the video where Netflix would show like the preview poster of a movie or TV show will be different depending on the person, and it depends on whether their gender, male or female, or others. Then you can go with like race, ethnicity. A show will be, what I see will be different than what you will see in terms of the image that's being shown in the list of movies and TV shows. That's because they think they know what I like to see as the preview poster versus what you would like to see. So they'll probably pick different characters on the preview that we may be able to relate to. So small things like this, we're not even noticing. We don't even notice it's happening, but it's always happening. Let's see. Let's play this video.
Decks only exist and do so well because clicks have become the de facto currency of the online world. We've all become accustomed to the fact that for years, the algorithms behind Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the others have rewarded big numbers, more followers, more comments, more shares, and more views. The rewards of growth and the lack of regulation have meant that if you want to have an impact, clicks are what you need to go after. The drive for clicks isn't restricted to governments, political movements, or marketing agencies. They're in it to shape perceptions. Many others are in it for the money. But how do you make money online? Engagement. The art and science of keeping people hooked. It's what keeps the online money machine churning. And so algorithms have been programmed to push content that gets high engagement.
Algorithms don't necessarily determine the veracity of content. They're often more concerned with the virality of it. So if more people are engaging with a certain topic, the algorithms might say, like, this might matter to you as well. That could be, you know, the new Avengers movie, it could be a new viral video about cats, but it could also be something of importance, such as, you know, a new breaking news story. And this is where we see bad actors trying to manipulate the popularity metric. And it's why we get disinformation stories spreading like wildfire, because if there are a bunch of fake accounts online engaging with a fake breaking news story, then that might get pushed into the news feeds of real users, and then real people will start interacting and sharing these disinformation stories further and further.
There is tools you can use. There's a variety of stuff like the CRAP method, CRAAP, but we're going to use a SIFT method here. There's a bunch of different ones online. Use whatever you feel works for you a lot better. So stop, investigate, find, and trace. Stop when you're looking at stuff information in the beginning. Ask yourself, do you know the source on the website? What is its reputation? Are you getting overwhelmed? But remember, your purpose was to read a story, post quick information, get high level explanation of an issue or event, or was it to get highly detailed research? Investigate the source. Well, investigate the source. Who created the information? And what do they stand to gain or lose from it? Is it a specific company, an individual? Is it a nonprofit organization? Is profit even at stake? Find trusted coverage. Can you find other reputable sources that corroborate the initial source claims? Is there a consensus in the field of trusted experts? So, evidence-based research is something that is emphasized a lot in college. You don't just take the first source you find and run with it. That's just one piece of the entire picture. So if you find something that states that this is the results of this study. Make sure you can find other researchers that came to the same conclusion. Or same if you go to like a news article, if they state that this is the story and nothing else, and you go to another article and they say the complete opposite, then you're like in a bind. Who do you go with? Then it's your job to constantly keep going and find what is everyone saying in terms of the story. Is it true? Is it fake? Who's telling the truth? Who's not telling the truth? Because again, there's might be biases. Maybe the company or the individual may have their own biases and they're trying to get you to believe what they believe in. Lastly, trace claims, quotes, and see because my image and media to the initial context. Did you see a quick meme, infograph, tweet, or headline with something you're curious about? Try to find out where it initially came from to contextualize if the information. Context matters. There isn't an issue with finding information from social media. There's been plenty of times I will hear a story through something like TikTok or Instagram. A lot of times you're just giving information out. It is your job to make sure you follow up to make sure that the information they're stating is true. Or if they said a study shows that if you eat tomatoes, you will, like gain muscle. Well, hopefully they will provide the context of which article, what research they found that information from. If not, then it's hard for us as academics and librarians to just say, oh, this random person online who has 1 million followers, whatever they say must be true. That's not the case. If they're stating certain claims or quotes, then you have to follow up saying, okay, where are you getting this information from? Because nobody here would believe someone else just because they said it, right? So context matters. If you don't believe me about being worried that disinformation is out there all the time, I'm gonna give you a couple examples here. Don't assume what is in front of you is always the truth. Simple questions should give you simple answers. So if I were to ask you, find an article or website that answers the following: which soccer player has the most goals? And I'm going to give you a few seconds. Feel free to pause the video, count down for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Did you get Cristiano Ronaldo? You see here one of the first results. The current world record for the most international goals is held by Portugal's Cristiano Ronaldo. According to Rec Sports Soccer Statistics Foundation, RSSF, has scored 122 goals. There's another one right next to it. Cristiano Ronaldo is the highest scorer in the history of international football. The Manchester United forward has 115 goals in 183 games. So I'm assuming that's like an older one, right? Go to the actual Olympics here. Top 10 international goals scorers in men's football. Again, it showed up as Cristiano Ronaldo, goals 130. So that's the most up-to-date one I had. I found online. Is that the right answer? Is that what everyone got? Well, it's actually wrong. I didn't ask for which man. I asked which player. So that includes women. You can go ahead and try to look for it again on Google. If it keeps showing up as Cristiano Ronaldo, I'm telling you it's wrong. That's not the highest score soccer player. 5, do a search. 4, it's not him. 3, you have time. 2, feel free to pause. 1, what did you get? Oh, I guess I did want to emphasize a little more that gender and racial bias in the internet exists. Try searching again. Who is it? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Christine Sinclair of Canada is currently the active player among both women and men with the most goals in international football, of 190 goals. So the last one that I said with Cristiano was 130, right? Since 2020, Christine Sinclair is the leading all-time international goal scorer. And went back to the Olympics website, and there it shows up: 190 goals, 323 appearances. I put in quotes what exactly you have to type in to get the correct answer. It might be a little bit different than what you put in, but I had to search female soccer player scored the most international goals ? Then I got Christine Sinclair. When I typed in soccer player, it always gave me, oh my God, what's his name? Cristiano Ronaldo. So if you can get the wrong answer by doing such a simple question to Google, then imagine when you're actually trying to find information for your paper. You're more than likely going to get wrong information. So you don't just go with, oh, Google told me that Cristiano is the one with the most scores. You have to go through the entire history. You have to compare and contrast what other sources are saying. Let's focus on the actual research. So I've had a student who wanted to talk about the topic of obesity. What did we want to focus on? So we came on what will help maintain a healthy weight. Did some research. We found a couple of articles that talked about the differences of what may have caused potential causes of obesity, whether or not it was poor nutrition or the lack of exercise. Which one was worse? So we came across a research organization called Global Energy Balance Network. If I asked you to do a Google search for Global Energy Balance Network, this is a time where you can pause the video and just do a search for them. Do you agree with their statement that exercise is more important than nutrition? So count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hopefully you did not agree with it, because the first result of the Global Energy Balance Network that showed up, this organization shouldn't be trusted, is that we find out quickly who funds this organization, the Global Energy Balance Network. Do you think there is bias? So if you didn't do a Google search, I have a screenshot right here. Who funds this organization, this network? You can see the screenshot, Wikipedia, and I think that was from like the homepage of Google. Coca-Cola funds them. Of course, they're going to want to blame it on the lack of exercise. Because if anybody finds out that poor nutrition and sugary sodas is the reason why there's a lot more obesity in the United States, then that's really going to mess up their profit margins. And the New York Times wrote about them too. Coca-Cola funds scientists who shift blame for obesity away from bad diets. So Coke had made a substantial investment in a new nonprofit. In response to requests based on state open record laws, 2 universities that employ leaders of the Global Energy Balance Network disclosed that Coke had donated $1.5 million last year to start the organization, and provided close to $4 million in funding for various projects to the 2 of the organization founding members, Dr. Blair and Gregory A. Hand. What about another example? I had a student who wanted to talk about bipolar disorder in children. Focusing on children, and they're trying to figure out, is there something that's more effective? Is it medication or is it therapy? Found another article where we had Harvard faculty / researchers, Dr. Joseph Biederman, Thomas Spencer, and Timothy Willens. They stated in their original research, which I can't find online anymore, do you agree with their statement that medication is more effective over therapy? Now, if you found this article and the results show, yes, medication is better suited for children in the long run, hopefully you're not just going to run with that one article and call it a day. No, you have to find other articles by other researchers that stated something similar or different. If everyone's saying medication is the right way to go, then yeah, they might be onto something. But if more people are saying therapy, or there's a mix of it, you have to look into results. You have to look at the numbers. You have to look at the background of who they are. And when we did a little quick deep dive of who these Harvard faculty and researchers were, guess what happened? Harvard punishes 3 psychiatrists over undisclosed industry pay. Harvard Medical School at Massachusetts General Hospital have disciplined 3 faculty members in a long-running conflict of interest case that became a prime exhibit in the debate over a federal physician payment Sunshine Act of 2010. So these 3 staff faculty members accepted more than $4.2 million from drug companies for psychiatric research and other activities between 2000 and 2007 without reporting the income to Harvard, MGH, or the federal government. There might have been a case where therapy was just as good, if not better, than pills, medication. We won't know unless the student or you follow up with other information that was written on a topic by other researchers. You have to be very careful with these researchers with bias. Now, I'm not saying I'm not saying when you look at an article, you have to do a deep dive on people's backgrounds and look at their W-2s and their paychecks. You don't have to do that. The bare minimum is if you find something that state this is the results and this is what we found, find something else that supports it. Here are some other tools that you may want to utilize. Snopes is a trusted fact-checking site, great for verifying politics and news. Let me quickly click on it. What's a good one? No, Harris didn't back out of September 4th Fox News debate with Trump. If you click on it, I think the way to go about it is just saying if it's true or not. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Rating, context, claim. This is what a lot of people may claim, and you might see this on like Facebook or just tweets or whatever. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris backed out of September 4th, 2024 debate with former U.S. President Donald Trump on Fox News. And a lot of people will say, oh yeah, can you believe Harris, like Vice President Harris, she backed out, blah, blah, blah. Well, no. Context. The Harris campaign said the candidates agreed on 3 debates, one on September 10th, second on October 1st, between the vice presidential candidates, and a third between Harris and Trump later October. At least publicly, Harris never agreed to a September 4th debate on Fox News. But they give you not only like why it's false, but background on like where they hear this from. And oh my goodness, they're giving you like social media screenshots and stuff. So please do your research, and you can use these tools to see if any of this is correct or not. PolitiFact, another nonpartisan fact-checking site, mostly political, has partner sites to check claims made by TV news personalities and also state-level checking. Yeah, they don't care about clicks and all that. They just more so want to make sure the information they come across is false. Mostly false. What was the other one? Half true or true. And it looks like there's a lot of false and a lot of, mostly true, half true. Yeah. OpenSecrets.org, research organizations that focuses on money and politics and its effects on legislation and policy. All sides present news organizations and stories from left, center, and right perspectives side by side. Media bias chart rates reliability and political bias of news organizations through a chart. Some credible popular sources to get you started. Here are a few examples. You may want to look into it. We may have it available physically at the library, but more than likely we may have these as digital electronic versions online, which you have free access to because you pay for these databases and these magazines and publications through your tuition. So if you're not sure how to go about finding these, ask the librarians and we can show you how to go about doing it. Because if you go directly to like the New York Times or Psychology Today or the Wall Street Journal, if you go directly to their websites, they're going to want you to pay to get access to a lot of it. They may give you a preview or half an article, then they're going to ask you to sign up, or they'll let you read 2 or 3 articles and then you have to start paying for it. No, we're already subscribed to the majority of these, and you have access to it for free. All right, hopefully that covers a lot of it. Hopefully this clears up a lot of stuff. Reach out to us on Trinity Library at trinitytdc.edu. You can also make a virtual appointment with us. So go to the library homepage, scroll down to right here, search your research here, need research help, request a virtual appointment, log in if you're off campus, and state when would you like to meet. We're usually open 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, from 9 to 9. These are our summer hours right now, so we have to change it potentially. Saturdays from 9 to 5. We will try to assign you with a librarian who can meet with you and may have like a more expert on the topic that you're talking about. So reach out as soon as you know you need assistance, because midterms and finals, we're going to get really busy and it may be difficult. We may have to meet with you in a day or two later. But we do take walk-ins. It's your choice whether you want to meet in Zoom or in person. If you're on campus and you want to meet in person, that's completely fine as well. We do take walk-ins. If at any point you have any questions or concerns, feel free to give us a call or email us at trinitylibrary@trinitydc.edu.